Hey, welcome to another edition of A Weekend for Love, the best luxury marriage retreat in the world. And I'm not just being biased. We have a lot of people that we love marriage retreats from everywhere because they help us to keep our marriages strong. And so tonight, we are joined by three powerhouse couples at three different stages of marriage, right? To talk about something old and something new, what they learned, what they need to learn, what you should learn watching this, because we believe in strengthening families, we believe in strengthening marriages, and the best way to do that is to actually learn from couples who have going through it and have gone through it and get wisdom. So my name is Dr. Tartt. My wife, Mecca Tartt, will be joining us soon. We have an infant we decided to cut up right before we started, which is real life marriage, real life family. So my better half will be joining us. So I'll look a lot better as soon as she joins. But today, I want to introduce three powerhouse couples who I tend to know extremely well. All right. So why don't we start with the youngest, literally in marriage, even though they're not newbies to this. All right. They have a half a decade plus in the game. This is my church family. All right. I want to introduce you to Brenda and Kristie Brawley. All right,
what's up, everybody? How you doing?
Word of Faith under the leadership of Bishop Dale C. Bronner, my personal pastor. And these are a young couple that my wife and I look in church and like, we need to be more like them. All right, this is how we used to be. You see what they're doing? That's what we need to do. So we are joined by the Brawleys. Tell us how long you've been married. How many kids? Give us all the vitals.
We're coming on 7 years. It'll be 7 years in December. And we got one little one right now.
A toddler. She'll be 2 in July. So we just finished washing yogurt out of her hair.
Yep, right before this broadcast. Sure did.
Hey, it is real. It is real. All right. And then I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. All right. So next, Phil and Sonya. All right. These are my cousins via Tuskegee, Alabama. Right. And, Phil and I go way back. I always looked up to him, going to family reunions, seeing them and then watching them get married. Right. And I was telling Mecca the other day that in my family, I just thought that's what you're supposed to do as a man. You get married to a really great woman and you're a really great man and you lead your family through ups and downs, no matter what, because that's what I saw. Right. And so I'm just excited to introduce my cousins, Phil and Sonya Brown. You want to tell your vitals and tell them what you have going on?
We have been married 23 years. It will be 24 years next month. We have 2 daughters. One is upcoming junior in college, and the other is upcoming senior in high school. So we will be empty nesters real soon here.
Yeah, some different phases. 2-year-old emptiness. So you want to add anything? You want to help Phil out?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So on June 24th, we've been married 24 years. So this year is golden for us because it's 24 on the 24th.
On the 24th.
So that's kind of our lucky number right now. So like Philip said, we're 24 karat gold now. So
oh my goodness, I like that.
So 24 karat. So we're excited. We're glad to be here among such wonderful company. So we feel honored.
All right, wonderful. All right, and then the seniors, but even though they stay young, as they travel more than any young couple. I don't know if they're in Aruba. I don't know if they're in San Francisco. I don't know if they're in Denver. I don't know where they are because they always in a different city for some other reason. All right, and I love it. I want to introduce you to my cousins, Rod and Brenda Matthews. You want to tell people about yourself?
Listen, we've been married 34 years, April 2nd of this year. We have 2 amazing young men as our sons, and we have 2 wonderful daughter-in-laws. We are the grandparents of 2, soon to be 3 men also. So we like to say we raise kings and marry queens in this family. It's a joy to be with you. We're excited of what the evening is going to hold, and we just look forward to supporting and providing the input that you're looking for.
But there it is. So I appreciate you all joining us. I know y'all are busy. All of you have families. All of you are extremely uber successful when it comes to business with multiple businesses, which feel free to shout out. You know, we are an entrepreneurial family around here. So, y'all know about love, marriage, and business. All right, so let's get started. And I didn't tell you, Mecca and I have known each other forever, 13 years. She made me wait 5, but we would have 13 in the game versus what we have. So she made me wait, and we have 3 children. We have a 16-year-old, we have a 5-year-old, soon to be 6, and when we have a 5-month-old Christian who is nursing in the back. So we're still learning ourselves. So let me ask you all this. All right. When we start talking about marriage, you get a lot of marriage advice when you first start. You get a lot of marriage advice from different places, and just feel free to chime in. I'm not going to call on anyone. I want y'all to just chime in. What was the worst advice that you got? And then what was the best advice that you got when it came to making marriage work? Let's start with the worst.
I think the worst advice is looking at marriage like it's a job, just focusing on all the work. It's like, well, what is there to look forward to if you are just signing up for a job? So I don't really like the depiction of marriage as just work, because you kind of lose like the luster of it, and the approach to that type of arrangement is different from one that is about friendship and love. And yes, you sacrifice, and yes, you grow, but not just signing up for a job.
Now, what about you, Brandon? What was the worst piece of advice you got?
I was watching a comedian one time, and
this is already going bad.
It's gonna be awful, actually. He was saying he talked to an older man, and they had been a couple for many, many years. And he said, decades. And he said the wife walked away for a moment, and he asked him, he said, "Hey, how did you get like these 40 or 50 years in marriage?" He said the old man leaned over and whispered to him, "Cheat." So that's not personal advice, but that's advice that I heard and I thought was hilarious. But there's a lot of people out there that kind of, when you're getting married, they kind of echo certain types of things. I would say not necessarily advice. The attitudes that were conveyed to me were more so one of preparation of failure, versus one of success.
Yeah.
And one of, or attitudes of just, it's going to be awful, or it's hard, or, everything is hard though. Right. So you just gotta pick your heart at the end of the day. So that's where we are.
And let's clarify, there's no wandering eyes over here. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, we know you
My
blessed
wife
with Holly's favorite with a pocket knife.
It was a joke.
So I'm
It was
praying,
a joke.
right? I'm praying for
Get
that.
choked out.
All right, what's some bad advice that you all got? Just unhelpful advice.
Is this for the old folks or the young folks?
We'll call y'all seasoned. We don't use old. Seasoned couples.
Well, I would just like to say this. It's one thing, you got to take advice from folks in your season. The most advice I get about being married is from unmarried folks, and see, that's a recipe for disaster in and of itself. Why should I listen to somebody who hadn't been there? But a lot of times, those are the folks who are quick to give you advice, or somebody who's failed at this thing numerous times. So, and a lot of times, this should be an easy question, because folks tend to accentuate the negative and downplay the positive. But as far as bad advice, maybe Brenda can chime in, but I think you need to be wary of who you take the advice from.
That's good.
That's true.
So do y'all reach out to other couples? So just think, a lot of times we're taught, keep married business in the house, right? And I can talk to all 3 of you, because all 3 of you have brands. All of you have brands outside of your house, not only a brand for the family, a legacy within your families, but also people who are looking in from the outside in different ways. How do you manage the balance between keeping things in the marriage versus reaching out to other mentor couples and learning how to do marriage yourself? Phil and Sonya, and then anyone else chime in.
Yeah. I think going back to, I think, some of that worst advice, when you would think about it like that, if there's someone that's giving you advice such as, oh, can you make it past the 7-year itch? Or can you make it past, they're giving hurdles, that you need to make it past already before you even get started. So that's a person that you don't want to go to for any kind of marital advice. And if you think about it, if your marriage, just like you said about the first couple, if you wouldn't want your marriage to mirror something of yours or the way they are, then you would not ask them for advice. You're not judging, but you would not ask them for that type of advice because that's not who you would want to be like, whether they're seasoned or whether they're young. So you have to choose carefully if you want to ask for marital advice. But at the same time, if we're going to do that, we're on the same page. We don't go out asking. I won't ask my friend Tamika for advice. Then he goes and asks his friend for advice. We talk about it first. And that way it's still our marriage, but we're asking for advice from people that we trust.
And additionally, we believe in couples. So if there's something we want to share it with another couple. So it's not where Sonya's off talking to a friend, getting advice, I'm off talking to a buddy. If we literally want to talk about a relationship and a couple, we talk to other couples.
Hey, I think that's great advice. I mean, the worst piece of advice I heard was, like I said, we don't believe in divorce, right? And I was like, why is that bad advice? And Mecca and I know we do believe in divorce. All right, we're so scared of divorce coming at us that we're willing to make adjustments, right? So like we don't have this fantasy that we never get divorced. We're actually afraid of it. We look at Titan couples who we say, nah, not them, and realize that could be us. Right? There is no title, whether I'm a psychologist, it doesn't matter. There's no title. You're only as good as the relationship with who you're with based on the circumstances that are coming at you. So the worst piece of advice I said, never consider divorce. When I think that you should always be afraid of it and always be weary of it and make the adjustments so that the marriage actually feels good for both of you. Otherwise, you can be in something that doesn't feel good. All right. So speaking of that, what tricks of the trade, tell us some things. If a couple is getting married tomorrow, all right, and this is for each one of y'all individuals, this would be a personal question. And, I'm going to ask personal questions. Y'all agreed to come on, so I'm going to ask personal questions. All right. So something you struggle with that if you could go back and give the younger you advice, maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years in, or even at different points in your marriage, what advice would you give and why?
You know what? Let me jump in here for a second. So when Sonya and I first got together, I had no idea that I was going to ask her to marry me. She was an actual neighbor. And, I kind of thought I was big brother, just 3 years older. And, she's just getting out of college. And I literally became her friend. And I told her everything. When I mean told her everything about the girls I was dating. And so by doing that, you have to know who your partner is. She forgets nothing. Okay. So the downside to that is, although we were great friends, she could easily remind me of a girl, an incident, a situation. And so sometimes I think that's a double-edged sword. But the good that came out of it is we're very open and honest with one another, right? So we tell young couples, don't believe that your spouse is not going to look at another woman or look at another man. That's not possible. If they saw you, they're going to see someone else. But my trick of the trade is I like to address it up front. So if we see somebody walking in the park and they're attractive, if she knows I think they're attractive, I know she already knows it. So I'll just put it out there. It's like, wow, sweetie, look what she's wearing. Or I'll acknowledge
I'm gonna try
it
that,
just
Phil.
to put it out there. And if I see a guy
I like this advice.
that I think she,
Look
you
at
know,
Rihanna.
would find attractive, I would do the same thing. Yo, look at that dude, you know, and we would have a conversation. So it's nothing you have to hide. Just put it. Now you have to be comfortable with that. Everybody can't do that. So I'm not advising. I'm just simply sharing that that's something that works for us.
No, you're being open. You're putting things on the table and being, comfortable with it. I was doing a podcast with Mecca, and this was one of the first podcasts that Mecca had done. And she didn't know that they asked you trick questions, and they were like, you know what? Other than your husband, who would you like to be with? And I was like, I only want to be with my wife. Now, granted, I could have gone Beyonce, I could have gone Rihanna. Actually, in reverse order, I go Rihanna, I go Beyonce. That's I'm just gonna be with my wife. And then my wife was like, Will Smith. I was like, oh shit. I was like, really? And so after the podcast, I said, babe, were you joking? Or are you being for real, right? I just want to have a conversation, right? And I was like, under what circumstances could that happen? And we actually talked about the circumstances of how it could and could not happen. All right. And it was one of our, real conversations about dealing with temptation, things that lead up to it, so that you can have an open and honest conversation about certain things. Right. And so she was like, hey, if Janet Jackson pull you upstage, I need to talk to you, afterwards about a problem. Would you say no? I'd say I'd be in trouble. I ain't gonna lie. Right? That's too much for me. I'm not gonna lie. Janet, I don't even feel you should get mad. It's Janet. Like, it's not like it's just random. It's Janet, right? So we were able to actually have a conversation about situations we can and cannot be in. All right. And be open and honest. All right. Now, so let's mix this up a little bit. All right. So Brawleys, Matthews, y'all want to weigh in on advice you would give the younger you or couples that might be stuck at a certain point?
I would tell
I'll let you ladies first.
I would tell my younger self two things. One thing, to give myself grace. Like, as a new wife, I was trying to be super wife, do it all, and try to have everything perfect. And when you're with your spouse, they're going to discover that you're not perfect. So the level of pressure that you can put on yourself can be unhealthy for the intimacy of your relationship. And sometimes you can put expectations on yourself that your spouse is not even putting on you. The other thing would be not to sweat the little things. So, like, especially as the wife, like as the one who manages the household, like, I was trained growing up, like, don't vocalize everything that you think. If it's negative, you don't want to be a nagger. But if you're still actually focusing on all those little things, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did this and that, or like he would have me like watching things on TV that I despised.
Like anime? I know y'all inside scoop.
Yes, exactly. And I would feel like I'm just dying on the inside. But like over the course of time, I just stopped caring. It's not that big a deal. I used to be sitting there thinking like, I am wasting my time right now. I'm wasting my life. And I would be getting so angry on the inside. And it's like, looking back, it's such a small thing, but it's like sometimes we are so focused on the smallest little things, and sometimes just telling yourself it's not that serious. Like, I tell myself that now sometimes. Like, I think that every strong couple realizes that some of the things that you're irritated about are absolutely tiny. So I would tell my younger self, it's not that serious, Kristie.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
I would tell my younger self early on in our marriage, and even now, my profession, I traveled a ton. So prior to traveling, I would make sure that everything was bam, 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 so it'd be really easy, because I didn't think he could do as well with the boys as I could. So I would spend a lot of time doing that. So I would tell my younger self, which I finally told my older self, to be okay with, if he's going to feed them hot dogs, they're going to eat hot dogs. They're not if they don't get a bath tonight, it's okay. He didn't get one tonight. probably 20 years to get to that point. And, you know, I would tell myself 50% of them is him, the other 50 is me. So however he did when I was gone, be okay with that as opposed to stressing about it. And it took me a while, but I finally got there. I finally just like would leave and come back and everybody was okay. You know, they were clean, they were fed, and they were glad to see
They're
Mom.
still alive. They're still alive.
Yeah,
they
they're
made
doing well. So that's probably one thing I would say.
So pre-marriage for me, I would tell my much younger self, Rod, you got to let it go. With me, I mean, I was glad to have the love of my life agree to marry me, but it's a part of that other life I didn't want to let go. I didn't want to let go of hanging out with the guys or having female friends or you know, doing some of the things that single folks did. Matter of fact, I would kind of envy my single friends and what they were doing when my situation was better than theirs. They wanted to be like me. So I would tell my younger self, man, you blessed, you know, so you need to go ahead and let that part of your life be in the past. So that is definitely what I would do if I had a do-over.
I would share.
Plug it into.
I mean, y'all see in different phases, you know, different levels of advice, right? And Mecca's buzzing around. I'm like, girl, are you joining us? Or are you not? Is you or is you not? Anyway, just buzzing around. But anyway, the focus here is making sure that you make adjustments at different times in the marriage. All right. So let's talk about quality time. You know, I was telling Mecca the other day of all the couples that I see, the single most dominant issue is couples not spending enough time with one another, like getting so busy with life that they don't spend time with one another. Well, welcome, baby. I'm glad you joined us. I am docking your pay, even though you were nursing our child. Your pay has been docked. All right. All right. So, what advice do y'all have? What advice do y'all have about quality time when all three of you are beyond busy, not only with your personal careers, but also with business as well as raising children and grandchildren?
Right.
How do you keep the main thing, which is quality time?
You know, I would say COVID, if we go back over the last 2 years, and I'm going to say this with tongue in cheek, those that had a quality time together, they were able to navigate the COVID season and come out healthy on the other side. Those that were not, you know, they're still working through it. We spent a lot of time together prior to COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID. I mean, we almost don't do anything without each other. There's very few things we do without each other. But as far as how do we manage time, we take care of ourselves, which, you know, you take care of yourself, then the rest of the family is going to be healthy also. We go to the gym in the mornings together. We typically eat lunch together. We go for a walk in the afternoon together. When we're not traveling, we travel together all the time now. But he can add to it.
Well, it's easy for us because we have common interests. By you having common interests as a couple, that quality time kind of comes easy. And we both try to take pride in our physical health because the older you get, you need to take care of those kind of things. So a lot of things we do are shared interests, and it's just easy for us to share those common goals.
And as you were saying, to build on that, COVID was not an issue for us as emotionally or physically or some mentally, because we were already spending a lot of time with each other. And so what we just did was we just brought wherever we wanted to do, we just brought it to ourselves. For instance, a date night was watching TV, but it wasn't just in your sweats watching TV. Philip would make me my favorite beverage, my favorite little drink with the mint in it and everything, and make it really pretty. He would make that and a charcuterie board. So we would have the date night, but it was it was like a real date night. So with the cheese and wine and all of that, and we would maybe watch a movie or something like that. So we were able to just navigate that by kind of being natural. And then also another thing too, it's a little personal, but when we when we find ourselves like so busy, and like I start a new job tomorrow, and it gets kind of crazy. When we find ourselves so busy, we've instituted something that I don't know what we call it, but he calls it like 7 days. So, so he loves that. That's his favorite thing. So we
catch this one, gentlemen.
So Mecca, you'll be calling me about this later. But we have 7 days of intimacy. Like that 7 days. So
nonstop, every
Straight.
day, no excuses.
Brandon like that. He's like, yeah, I like that. I'm rejecting that.
It has to be like 7 days. Now we don't do this like, often, but when we find ourselves so busy, and then I'll say, you ready for 7 days? And of course he's like, oh yeah, I'm ready for 7 days. So no matter what, he's like, you don't even have to really participate. You don't have to be awake no matter what.
Because you said, what you said was.
Because you said like those 7 days, and that kind of will like jumpstart and get us back to being like ourselves. So that lets us, number one, my daughter just came down. She's like, ooh, gross, God, she went back upstairs. But anyway, that helps us too. So the date nights help us just kind of emotionally, and then the 7-day plan, what we call it, that helps us in other ways too. So we have to schedule that time. Or we also send kind of, dirty text. I'll say, okay, 7 days. And so, of course, all of a sudden he's at home early, Mecca, right. if it's 7 days. So we'll kind of do things like that. But we try to be realistic. We're not going to have 7 days twice a month, So, we just try to make sure that we're scheduling time for ourselves.
And to keep it spicy, 2 words, role play. Okay. So keep it fun and exciting, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, so that opens up a question. I want you to open. Oh, I'm sorry, she's tapping me on the knee.
I'm tapping because I want to hear what the Brawleys have to say.
I'm sorry. This was supposed to be your interview, so let's.
Oh, I just wanted to say you're a genius, my friend. That's all. You're a genius. After an argument, I'm mad at you. I'm like, 7 days. I'm implementing that 7 days.
Be mad on Sunday because Monday begins a whole nother week.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Well, it sounds like you all have rituals. Like you all have lots of rituals that are interconnected together. So that's why you're able to have these dates, because a lot of couples just do life and they're not doing the relationship. And that's where you hear couples say that they've grown apart. And it's not that they grew apart. They just stopped doing things together, or they didn't have a lot in common.
Let's talk about when you get older, all right, the different seasons of marriage and how you maintain intimacy, because your intimacy needs change, right? Intimacy needs change. When you're 21, it's different than when you're, 31, 41, or 51. So Rod and Brenda, how do you manage intimacy for a lifetime marriage to keep it spicy and also be on the same page?
I guess for me personally, I try to do things that are attractive to my wife. I will, I don't do this for me. I don't work out for me. I don't try to dress like Al Dwan or Phil. I'm my other brother here to be. I do that to impress Brenda, So I look at how my kids dress and try to emulate them. So a lot of things I do is to be sexy to her. So I'm always trying to find ways to get a compliment from her, which comes rare, but I do. But that's kind of what I do. Okay. I take a challenge to just try to be the best version of Rod. I don't try to be superficial, but I guess I am kind of superficial when it comes to that.
Yeah, he makes sure of that for both of us. And yeah. That looks really nice. That means going by it. So those little subtle things go by. So
there's a lot of couples who have rules about how you need to look and how you present yourself when you leave a house.
Yes, a lot of couples do have certain things that are important to them. And when you know what your partner likes, you would hope that you want to do those things to impress your partner. I think that's important to continue to do that, right? You're nodding your head, Kristie. What do you want to add to that?
She's still mad about the 7 days, right?
It's a 7-day plan. I'm actually putting that in my book, though, guys. I'm actually putting that in my book.
So Sonya will give you a call.
Good. But I agree 100%. You wonder why my hair is blonde right now? Because he wanted it. So we are. We are always doing things to, you know, to be sexy, be attractive for one another. And you know, he likes a little glam, and so I'll do the extra things. I even wear lipstick at home. So, I mean, being sexy for your partner is so important to continue to do, because a lot of times people do that just to get the partner, but then they just kind of let themselves go, and you know, they're just always wearing sweats. So, you know, I try, and especially I know men are even more visual than females are, so it's really important. And I know people say that those are like the superficial things, but they help.
They do.
All those things help, and they also help your intimacy, because sometimes they can provoke it, they can bring it about. So it is, y'all are preaching.
I mean, true.
No, that's real. And go ahead, Brandon.
I was gonna say both of those strategies, right? Looking good and being sexy for your partner in 7 days, right? If you combine those, he's not looking out a whole lot outside. You understand? Because he's already drained. There's so much the brother can do. He's drained. He don't got time for the girl down the
I think you're gonna have to get Brenda your number.
On energy, she's gonna warn him out. He on crutches leaving the house at the 8th day. You know, 8th day. He's like, no more.
Hey, cousin.
You know, y'all are joking about it, but you know,
he doesn't know what runs in the family, does he?
Yeah, there it is. You know, be fruitful and multiply, right? So, but libido mismatches are common. Couples don't like to talk about it, but it is very common, right? You're not always in the same season. Our biologies and our physiologies change. You know, men's testosterone tends to drop when they hit late 30s, early 40s, and women's tends to rise, right? And then earlier, it is the complete opposite. And it depends on how much you work out and what's going on. You know, to be transparent, you know, I came home one day and Mecca was watching TV, right? She's watching Power, right? She's watching Power.
I remember that.
Hey, babe, how you doing? How you doing? I said, all right. I ain't thinking anything of it. I just let it go, right? Because I wasn't really paying attention. Hey, babe, did you cook? One finger up again. So now I'm getting a little salty, but I'm really like, okay, what's so interesting on the TV, right? And I'm looking on TV, and it's Ghost in a love scene, and she's all in it. Like, she's not even trying to play it off like she's not looking at it, right? Like, at least play it off. I would have put it on pause, right? I would have put it on pause and wait for her to go upstairs. But she's like, And I was like, okay, so I didn't say anything because I'm a man. I'm not gonna be upset about a dude on TV who happens to be my friend from high school, but it doesn't matter, right? So I'm gonna go. It's a real story, right? So I'm gonna go upstairs, and she comes upstairs. She says, "How was your day?" And I said, "How was Ghost?" And I said, "How was Ghost?" My day was fine. What's going on in Ghost Day? You're so interested in Ghost, right? And she was like, "Are you mad?" I said, "No, I'm not mad." She said, "Baby, you mad?" Yeah. I said, "You want to be honest? I don't want ghosts." I said, "Yes, you do. Everyone in America wants ghosts." She said, "No, I don't want ghosts, but I did like the scene."
Right.
Going back to role play.
Right. And so I said, all right, let me put on my white beaded shirt and pour some flour all on you. Let me go down there and watch this scene and see what's going on. All right. So, you know, we talked about role, and that was when we started having a conversation about role play, right? And keeping it spicy and allowing outside things that you both partake in, right? To be able to bring that into your relationship, right? So quick commercial, y'all. We're doing this for a weekendforlove.com. We have a luxury marriage retreat.
Yes, it's going to be September 29th through October 2nd in Destin, Florida.
Is it 29th or the 30th?
The 30th. Well, actually 30th. Thank you for correcting
me. We have to be down on 29th.
30th. Yeah, we do.
All right, so check it out for a weekendforlove.com, where we have couples at all phases of marriage, not only coming together in community, but also learning, because we can learn best from one another because you're around other couples who are having fun. All right, but I have a question. Let's talk about. Can I ask some personal questions?
Go ahead.
Let's do the personal questions thing.
Okay.
All right. So personal question is, I'm already grieving Raquel going away to college in my head. I am like preparing myself. I'm thinking like, man, you know what? What is life going to be like with her gone? And I am trying to figure out how to handle that. Like I'm like loading up on trying to spend time with her. And she's now starting to reject me. Like, Dad, I have volleyball practice. Dad, don't come in volleyball practice.
Right.
Dad, I'm going on a dance. Right. Dad, I'm gonna spend the night with one of my friends. Right. And so I'm wondering how you all have handled your children getting older and managing emptiness and also adult children when it comes to spending time with them and then balancing the marriage.
Well,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Ladies first, cousin.
I wish I could remember his quote, but President Obama said, "Our greatest gift to our kids is to raise them to be adults." Somewhere along the something like that. From day one, we raised the boys to leave. We didn't raise them to stay. That was always a part of the conversation. At 18, you're going to leave. You can come back, but you're leaving. So they knew from day one, and it helped us also. I mean, we were being, saying that hard, but in all actuality, it was like, oh my gosh, you spent all this time doing all this wonderful things and you got to leave. But it has helped. Now when they come back, we have the best weekends when we go on vacations together as families. You've got all that stuff to look forward to. Now the grandkids are with us. So we show up, we're in minivans now. It's a whole nother level. So it has progressed, and at each season it has become more meaningful. We enjoyed more. The grandkids, I mean, they do Josiah says all kinds of stuff, and we just enjoy being with them, with all the kids. So I think if early on, if you start saying now you're leaving, when it's time to go, you both know that day is coming and you both are ready for it. And then you have that next seasons to enjoy each other, to look forward to.
But I'm not going to dominate this question. But we still are the biggest helicopter parents in the world. I mean, when just because your kids graduate, that doesn't mean you don't. I mean, we still heard from them pretty much every day. We would talk on the phone every day. They would call us. Unlike a lot of back in my day, it was like cramping my style if I talked to my parents a lot, and that's not anything we did. But my kids are kind of like my friends. We do a lot of things together. I remember when we dropped Justin off of Mississippi State and bagging out that driveway when he went to that bridge program.
Hell State.
All right, Hell State. I mean, but Brenda looked at me and was wondering why tears were in my eyes. I didn't even know tears were in my eyes. I felt kind of wimpy, but I mean, I cried that day because it was a part of me knowing that, they were leaving. But at the end of the day, they still stayed in touch a lot, and we always went to see them, and we always were a part of each other's lives. Even to this day, I'm 61 years old, and we spend a lot of time with our kids.
I love it. See, that gives me a whole nother perspective.
It does give you a different perspective.
All right, Phil. So, what about you? I mean, you're all preparing for both ladies. Well, one, the second one, the youngest, right, to leave. How do y'all prepare for empty nest where it's just the two of y'all?
I think it's, as cousin was saying, it's once you put that into your children, you instill them, the right way to go and the things to do. And you just pray that they will do that. And you just pray for their covering and their safety, and their health and their well-being. And they come back and they show you that what you've done, and you feel like you've done, a pretty good job. For example, when Brooklyn left year before last, it was a very hard year because it was 2020. So she had no graduation, no prom, no homecoming, nothing like that. So it was very, very hard, for her and for us. But when she left, of course, we were sad, and I cried. And I think Philip went into his closet and cried. He didn't show me, but, we both did, because that's our first, she's our firstborn. And we just could not believe that we're at this point, even though we knew it was coming, but it was always 5 years. It's always 2 years. It's always next month. And now it's tomorrow. So it was very, very hard, but we learned a lesson one day. Brooklyn came home, from college one weekend, and she said she was talking to her dad about a guy that she was, kind of liking or whatever, but she didn't tell me much about it.
I would have loved to hear that conversation. Go ahead.
Well, she didn't tell me much about it. She was talking to Philip about it, and she said, and I walked in the room and I said, well, why'd you stop talking? And she said, well, Mom, Dad understands, because I want the guy that I like to be like Dad, but but I don't like him that much because he's not that much like dad. And, you know, Mom, I went to visit, I saw his parents, and he didn't talk that much. He just kind of sat there, and I had to carry the conversation. And so she named a couple of things, but when you know that you try to put that wisdom in them and you pray for them all that time, it makes you feel good when they come back and they say something that you said 5 years ago, and they repeat it back to you, and you're like, you really were listening. So I think that has given us some comfort. And of course, Kennedy's getting ready to go now. And I think the empty nester part, it helps because Philip and I are each other's best friends. So we know that we won't be totally alone. You know, we'll still be with each other. We'll still go visit. So we know that we have each other.
And, you know, like cousin said, you know, as they get older, they really become somewhat of your friend. And for me, you know, I'll be transparent. It's a struggle because I'm really engaged with both of them. It's like Brooklyn's senior year in high school, she kind of steered away from me as if, you know, I was too nosy. And it's like now she has come back around where she is really seeking counseling. And I'm loving every minute of it. I'm a girl's dad. The girl, they're dad. Yeah, she's jealous because, you know, we go hiking together. I mean, we do everything together. And they ask me to go. It's like, I want to go with my dad. Or they tell their girlfriends, well, my dad is going to take me, or my dad is going to do this, or my dad said this. So for me, it's not that easy because I'll be frank. You know, I'm working on it, you know, every day. But I think it's just a situation where we know that they have to grow up and move on, and we don't want to be a hindrance. So we want to encourage them to leave the nest, but always know the nest is available.
You know, I'm gonna chime in on that, and I know you want to, you know, touch with Brawley about a different question. That's something I made a mistake. I made a mistake, right? Because I'm now transitioning to being a friend. The friend was there solid, and then there was a period, like again, like Ray would talk to Mecca. I was like, well, how I get bypassed, right? I was third, right? I was the third person to be spoken with, and I actually got kicked out and banned from volleyball, right? So here I am, you know, sports psychology. I'm all in the team. This is great. You're not a boy, but I got you in volleyball. This is great, right? And you know, and I'm doing my thing, and then Ray was like, "Dad, nah." I was like, "Nah."
He thought he was the coach.
Right. I was like, your coach is horrible, right? You would win or not, right? So and she was like, Dad, like I can take your personality, but my teammates are like, yo, what's up with your dad?
Yeah, he was doing huddle on the side. Like he's not even the coach talking about huddle.
I drove all the way to South Carolina. Y'all gotta ball out, right? So she was like, so it got to the point where I realized that I had to fall back
and just be her dad
and wait for certain things to happen versus trying to coach her in advance, right? And so we are now becoming better friends as I actually fall back more,
right?
And let her come to me. And that is, y'all know, that's not my personality, but I want to be a great dad. So hearing both of you all say that, Rod and Phil, about how to do that is further confirmation for me to switch more to friend, because she doesn't need a lot of discipline. I mean, she doesn't really do anything that I'm aware of other than Snapchat, right? So that transition to being a friend is a good one.
Right. And I know there's some couples that are watching that are on the other end of the spectrum where they have an infant or a toddler at home. So my question is for Brandon and Kristie, what do you all do to ensure that you all stay connected, especially in that early stage, 1 to 2 years old? And how do you even decide for some couples that are like thinking, okay, maybe we're ready to have a child now?
That was a question for them, right?
Yeah.
Not for, okay, I just want to make
sure. We stay connected. Well, first things first is we have the child on a schedule. So her bedtime is 7:30 every day. So anytime after 7:30 is our time, or however we want to spend it. So that helps a lot.
Yeah, we're normally eating dinner without her.
Yeah, it's like, you got to go. You got to go. We love you. But you got to go.
He's already there.
Yeah, you done. You know, so we have her on a strict bedtime schedule. It's been that way pretty much 8 weeks out the gate.
Wow.
We're like, you got to go, kid. And so other than that, what we do, we have just certain, I think certain habits and rituals that have been discussed earlier. We eat dinner together. We ask each other, what we're grateful for. We're abreast on what the happenings on one another's lives. We go for walks together. So we spend a good bit of time and prioritize it. And we also schedule at least one evening in the week where it's just us hanging out. Usually some form of binging television is taking place, unfortunately, and eating binging food too. So, but we have a great time together when we do it, and that keeps us close. We also pray together, at least once a week, sometimes several times a week, sometimes every day in that particular week. So those are some of the things that we use to keep us strong and connected. And going back to the intimacy, you got to keep that. We have to keep that very regular, just to keep us connected as well. So
yeah, and I think that intentionality is major. Mecca, you mentioned about how some couples just kind of go with the flow, and then they end up finding themselves at a place that they've grown apart. And something about us, from honestly our second date, I was impressed by how intentional he was. So we talked about what was the culture of the relationship that we wanted, what was the culture of the marriage that we wanted. So neither one of us have been like super affectionate in previous relationships, but we decided, we want an affectionate relationship. So that means we're gonna hold hands, we're gonna do some PDA, we're gonna kiss in front of our parents, daggone it,
And y'all know they're both PKs. They're both PKs, right? They're both preacher kids. So
we decided that these are things that we value, and so we're very intentional in our marriage to make sure that we're touching each other, to make sure that we're affectionate, to make sure that we cultivate and maintain passion in our relationship, that's not something that just fizzles out over time. And even like postpartum, women, of course, our hormones may be doing crazy things. We may not feel like ourselves. We may not even desire intimacy. So intentionality is absolutely vital, because you could go through a rough postpartum period and then it's just bad habits that are created and you go downhill from there. So we have intentional conversations about, okay, well, if we haven't been intimate enough times last week, well, we need to schedule it this week. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like just being very, very intentional about the things that we value, because even the physical things help to bond us emotionally, releasing that oxytocin, as well as us creating experiences together, trying new things together, and putting those things on the calendar for us to, again, because even when you have positive experiences together, it's producing oxytocin. So making sure that we are having those experiences. And I love how the other couples were talking about spending a lot of quality time, and like you actually like being around each other and having the common interests. And those are things that we greatly value and probably have been talked about before.
Oh, definitely.
Being joined at the hip.
we get talked about that. I know it behind our backs. I'm sure.
No, it's we see y'all on social media. We see y'all, often in different places. But from talking to couples, and we were giving Raquel advice. She's very interested in all of a sudden in marriage.
Yeah, for the first time.
Yeah, for the first time. I'm just loving it, right? And we were like, look, a guy has to like you. All right. I was like, I love Mecca, but I really like her though. Like we can spend time. We can spend time. I enjoy spending time with her, whether it's a bad hair day, I'm just being honest, right? Or whatever, right?
Morning breath.
It's never bad hair day, girl. It's the hair, it's the combs fault of it. but it's
you have to like your partner, want to be around your partner. At the end of the day, the other thing is that we don't just want to do life. And the thing is, sometimes I believe when kids come into play, you can do volleyball, baseball. You have all these things that are built around the kids that you forget about the core of the relationship. Yeah. And so when the kids are gone, that's one of my biggest fears, that when the kids are gone, there's been so much focus put on the kids and the kids' activities that you realize that there's nothing that really binds you together anymore. Right. And so that's why doing us first is so important.
Yeah, we have ritual. We have to put a ritual after dinner like everyone's asleep right now, theoretically. Well, hopefully Christian stays down. We spend time together, right? But we've had to be intentional, because then I'll be on my laptop. Mecca was sure enough be on her laptop, right? I'll shut it down. I can 30
work
minutes.
all night. He's like, the light. When we first got married, he was like, because I was used to working in my bed on a laptop. He was just like, the lights are going off. So
I thought, you should be patient, and then you can't take it anymore. Y'all know my, you know my temperament. I was patient about 30 minutes. After a while, I was flipping the lights off. I have to be up at 5:30 in the morning. All right, so I don't know what you're doing, right? So let me ask you this: final question, and then I know y'all have things to do. Y'all have for 7 days in a row. All right. I'm gonna ask the most important question that I think a lot of couples just fail to get, and it's not obvious. All right, and we're probably gonna get 4 different answers.
Right.
All right. All right. When y'all have a disagreement, how do y'all make up?
Yeah.
Like I'm not asking just personally. I'm also asking for advice. Right? Like, how do you make up? What is your role as a husband? What is your role as a wife? What is your role based upon what's going on? How do you make up, and do you have rules or any advice to give couples who want to make it work?
That's a good one. In terms
Go ahead, Rod.
I believe in the art of persuasion. I think whenever you have an argument, and it's healthy to argue, but you need to understand why you're arguing. And see, a lot of times we'll have an argument, and I'll try my best to make Brenda understand that I don't like to argue, but I'm upset, and I'll try to make her understand why I'm upset, and I want her to buy into why I'm upset. So that way, if she understands what set me off, she doesn't think I have anger issues. And sometimes I may blow off in front of the kids, and I want them to understand, guys, I don't like to argue with your mom. I meant something upset me, and this is why it upset me. So I think when you do have disagreements, arguments, what have you, the other couple needs to understand why and what set you off. And you're always going to make up because you love that person. But it's also unhealthy to just kind of keep things bottled in. So if you have to let it out, but make sure that other person understands it came from a place of love, and you'll work to do better.
I guess, and one thing our mom told us 30 however many years ago, she says, never go to bed. She says, never go to bed, man. And I think regardless of what it is, which I probably said something that I didn't know I said, but I said it, I'll tell you.
But you don't even claim it, right?
I'm claiming it. At the end of the night, we're going to go to bed laughing and talking, and it's gone.
Hold on, how? I'm gonna be honest, like how? So some pops off at 8:30. You sleepy at 9:30. What do you do?
You can't take. I don't think either one of us take ourselves too personal. We don't take it personal. I'm trying to say. I mean, at the end of the day, we love each other. So if it's something that he's done, I'm not going to take it personal. It could be something that he's dealing with that is not about me at all. And we move through it, and we go to bed at night, and we get up the next day and go through the next day. It's been working for 34 years. We truly don't sweat the small stuff.
And it comes from a place of understanding the other person, like she knows I don't get mad just to be mad. I mean, there must be something bothering me, and it may not be something she did, but it may just be something else. So we try to understand each other, but don't get me wrong. Sometimes we go to bed and it still is on us, but we work through it.
No, I get it. What y'all saying is culture. It's a culture that y'all both know. Look, we're not gonna sweat the small stuff, and we'd like for this to be.
Neither one of us going anywhere.
Right. And we want to be in the same bed tonight, civil.
Right.
So you have an hour to get yourself together, or just be silent in the same room and watch TV. And get your own separate popcorn.
Yeah. And one thing I do tell, I've told younger couples, I mean, I don't care how bad it gets, don't go to another bed. Go to your bed. Sleep in your bed. Because if you go one night, all of a sudden it's 30 nights and you're still in that other bed. And it's hard to come back across that bridge. But if you go to the bed, I mean, stuff happens over in the night and you forget about it.
Stuff does happen over in the night.
They won't let me go. I'm trying to go on the couch like, girl, just let me breathe. Let me think for myself for 30 minutes, right? Like, I know you're not asleep down here. Like,
Right.
girl, can I watch a movie? Can I decompress?
It's so easy for couples to do that. What about Phil and Sonya?
Okay, so let me start with this one, sweetie. I don't believe in arguing, period. Never have from the day we got married. And the reason being is because I dated someone crazy. And there was a lot of arguing. And I was like, yo, if this is what a marriage is going to be, I don't want any parts of it. So when I met her, that was something that I voiced early on in terms of a deal breaker. You know, we cannot get in a relationship and argue. So that's off the table. And fortunately, by the grace of God, it has worked out that way. Like Rod said, you know, at the end of the day, I know her. She knows me. Like they said, we don't go to bed angry. That's just not an option. We have to talk it out until we resolve the issue before we go to sleep. 9 times out of 10, if we do have a disagreement, it's usually I'm talking about one thing and she's talking about another. And we identified that. We used to have to write it down, but now we can talk it out. And most of the times when we realize that we're having a conversation about different things, we get on one accord and we address both issues. Usually we start with hers because ladies first, and those are the most important that we have to deal with first. Then we deal with, you know, the male issue. And it has worked. Now that's my take. What's your take?
It has, and then also Mecca, he has learned to say I'm sorry.
So, a lot. So, unapologetic about it.
He's not, but he means it not just like
I'm sincerely sorry.
But he's sincerely sorry. But we know each other. We don't want. I would rather for him to hurt my feelings than me hurt his feelings, because I can't tell if he's okay. I know if I'm okay. So we really try not to hurt the other one's feelings. And then I'll say, Philip, did I hurt your feelings? And he will never say you hurt my feelings, but he'll say, well, I really didn't like it when you did or when you said. So that's how we kind of work. And then not going to bed angry is just something. I know he's not a night person. So after 10:30, there's really no need to have these big, long, drawn out plans and conversations and all this stuff, because he's mush. And so don't wake me up at 6 o'clock or 5:30 wanting to talk about the rest of our lives together. you know, not at 5:45. So we have to know.
Early bird gets the worm.
So, midday, mid-morning, something like that. Not too late, not too early, when we can come together and we can talk. But then if we do doesn't mean that we always agree on every single thing.
We can agree to disagree.
Right. Because we don't argue, it doesn't mean that we, I just agree with everything you said. It's just lovely and flowery. It doesn't mean that. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is I expect for him to make the decision. If it's something big that we're disagreeing about, he's going to make that decision. But I trusted him almost 25 years ago to be able to make that decision. Now, my input does count, but it has to be him, because he has to cover my house. He has to cover our house. So once I know that and we can kind of work through it, then I can help him to make a better decision. Sometimes it's the one that I want to make sometimes, but I can help him seriously to make that decision.
And let me just reiterate one thing that she mentioned that I think is paramount. We try to outserve each other, right? So I feel more hurt when she's hurt versus, so I work to make sure that she isn't hurt, even if it's a disagreement that I started or she started. It doesn't matter. The fact is, if she's hurt, I want to erase that. And she does the same for me. And I didn't teach her that. She came that way. So I know there's a God. Look, I know there's a God. I know there's a God, brother. I live it every day.
I love it. Well, so Brawley's, how do you all make up after an argument?
So first issue, there's no attacking anybody's character, calling anybody any names, just what is the issue at hand? Let's talk about that. And so having very, very clear and intentional communication. And then I like to be happy, y'all. So I will try to solve it as quickly as possible and try to think about, even if when I know he's wrong, I will try to think about what could I apologize for? If I were wrong for something, what would that be? Try to apologize.
I love it.
Move on and enjoy the rest of the day.
I love it.
So early on in our marriage, then he would just take so long to like bounce back after an argument. Like he would still look upset. And I'm like, but I thought we resolved it. He's like, well, I need time to like, I'm not just gonna,
That's me.
you know, right afterwards. And I didn't understand that. But like over time, we've just adjusted and grown. Now he does actually bounce back faster. But you know, my strategy has always been, let's go ahead. First of all, prioritizing the health of the marriage. At the end of the day, if we're not willing to be flexible and make adjustments and admit when we are wrong, then we cannot live with somebody else. That's just how it goes. So both people have to be willing to make adjustments, and you can't wait for that person to make the adjustment before you do something, because they may not. So I try to think about, okay, what was my part? Because it does take two to tango, regardless if that person was more wrong. It does take two to tango. So
I don't like how you keep pointing at me when you say wrong.
No, she didn't just point. She did this.
Right. You know what it is.
In case you guys missed it, this guy.
I love it.
So, no, what we do, we typically, first of all, we never resort to name calling. We don't yell or cuss. I told her from the very beginning, we don't raise voices at each other. We don't yell at each other. We don't cuss at each other. None of that in a disagreement. And if it's still too heated in that moment, then it's better for us to reschedule the conversation when we have a little bit of time to process it. So we will schedule it and say, hey, look, you know, there was a time a couple weeks ago I was like, yeah, we got to deal with this, but not today. And it took maybe 3 or 4 days, you know, before, for me personally, I was at a place that I could say, okay, I can do this the way I would want it to be done, and vice versa for her. So you may, you know, what we do, we schedule it. We try to make sure we keep in certain parameters. We practice listening first, asking questions, you know, hey, what's, from your perspective, what's going on? How do you feel about this thing? And then we try our best to repackage what the other person has said and say, hey, this is what I'm hearing you say. And I think this is what you mean. And I can understand totally how you feel and why you feel that way based on your perspective, right? And so we validate that person's feelings, try our best to acknowledge it. And if there's an adjustment or improvement we can make that adjustment and or improvement. We ask the other person for clarity on, you know, so if I were to do this instead, or how would you prefer me to do in future situations? And if there's a thing that we can do, we will do that. And we just move on from there, but we don't hold grudges and we keep pushing.
And loving each other the way they want to be loved. So like I would be the person to be quick to apologize, but then I realized that wasn't enough for him. He wanted a commitment of what I was going to do differently next time.
Signed contract in blood.
He wants a contract.
I don't want an apology. That's too easy.
So the package now looks like I have repeated back to him what his issue was, and also make sure not to get offended in the process of dealing with his offense. So one thing at a time. So repeat back to him what his problem was, understanding it, making him feel understood, empathizing with, I can see how that made you feel that way. And then I apologize for my part. And next time I'm going to do a better job of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and vice versa. So we both do that. And it's
once I do that, he's good to go.
It's
about right sleep. Goodbye. Now we've done that. I checked off the list. You should be good.
Right.
No, we get it. We're gonna wrap up. So we get it. It's about making adjustments.
Absolutely.
Mecca and I are very similar to you all, right? Mecca's very low key and laid back.
I don't like to argue.
Right. Except later. She's a late responder. So we'll argue, and I think it's cool. And the next day she's like, I thought about something you said. I'm not cool with that. I was like, I'm already good.
Right. No.
And you're mad. I said you have 4 hours. Right, it's the statute of limitations is done.
I have to feel.
No, the next day. No, you committed yesterday to let it go, and then tomorrow you can't change your mind, right? But we learned that she's a late responder. She needs to process certain things, and I'm someone that likes to talk about it and get it over with. Let's get back to the movie. Let's argue for 3 minutes. Let's keep it pushing. But we have a rule. We have a rule because we've had some really intense fellowship, right? About bringing the third child into this world, right? Like we want polar opposite ends of that.
Right.
Polar,
You
right?
all know that.
Right, polar opposite ends, right? And we agreed that if we argue about something 3 times, that we go to counseling ourselves. All right, and that's what resolved the matter.
Right.
Because then we just resort to telling each other. I said, I can't wait to tell Dr. Killers what you said. Keep that same energy. They think you're so sweet, and I can't wait to tell them what you said. And for us, knowing that we have a third person that's going to hear helps us actually have some decorum. I'm just being honest. We know we have the checks and balances, and they be like, "Oh, I thought you were a therapist, and you said that." And so I'm like, "No, I want to tell them.
I can't wait to tell Dr. Felix."
Right. Tell them the perfect thing. Tell them the sentence that I said, and then you tell them what you said, and we can see. So that's our rule: is that when we argue, to not let it go off the rails and grow apart. 3 times, that's it. That's it. That's our tolerance level, right? Because Mecca tell you, I like to mix it up. The first 2 are kind of interesting to me. I'm like, okay, you're kind of spicy.
He likes the drama.
I like a little drama. I'm not gonna lie. But the third time, that's gonna be okay. That's too much, right? I like 1/4 beyond, not the full dose. That's too much, right? I just want the PG-13 version, not the Anyway, so. When it comes to marriage, y'all see there's many different recipes, but what you've heard is that there's a culture not going to bed mad. There's a culture
of having rituals.
There's a culture of keeping things spicy throughout the course of the marriage. There's a culture of being able to put the marriage first, in addition to having a phenomenal relationship with your kids. Right. And making the main thing, which as far as quality time with one another. So we thank you all. We know that y'all are busy. We thank you, family, for joining us, our church family with the Brawleys. And we thank you, Phil and Sonya. We thank you, Matthews, cousins. I grew from this. I'm not gonna lie. I grew from a couple of things that y'all said that I didn't know that y'all did. I didn't know that y'all were that good at marriage. You know what I'm saying? that I actually took from this, and we hope that other couples grow from this.
Right, and see the value in it, investing in your marriage and doing something different, making things spontaneous and fun. And about keeping things spontaneous and fun, we want to invite you all again to a Weekend for Love, September 30th through October 2nd. Where just couples come together and we have a good time, we fellowship, we have fun, and we keep it spicy too.
And I'm gonna be honest, we help couples who are thriving, and we also help couples who are on the brink of divorce, and also couples who are on the brink of divorce. Right. And so we know that in marriage, you're gonna be at all phases. Let's just keep it real. You're gonna feel like you're at all phases.
Right.
And it's best to be able to discuss that with seasoned couples and learn from the best and just have a good time. Because one of the things that we realized just coming just back from Jamaica was that we needed that time.
Right.
We needed that time to get away and put us first, even though Mecca had all 3 kids go. But that's okay.
Yes, all right? That's why there's a difference between a family trip and a vacation.
I had to get it anywhere I want to, right? I had to get
family trip, vacation.
Right.
We went on a family trip.
So at least Ray is 16 and can manage all 3. So certain things happen. But it's all good. So we thank y'all for joining us. Again, join us for a Weekend for Love. Spread the word. Share this on your pages. Couples dive in. Share this. And we're excited. Any final words? Anything y'all want to promote? And then we'll pray out.
The empty nest is a good place to be. It's okay.
Okay.
I was looking forward to that, but that's been deferred.
You starting back over.
I just want to say, just put each other first. And then if you put each other first, then you'll always be first. So that's what I want to say.
That's good. I guess we got to give a wisdom nugget too. Always seek to understand before being understood.
I love it. And I love the teamwork. See, couples can tell when you're kneeing each other and who's gonna go. I'm not going, you're going. We can see all the subtleties that come along with marriage. Yeah. And I was joking. You know, Mecca's talk. We had an argument about having third child. Now I'm loving it. Right. I'm the one actually talking about 4. I'm talking about 4. Right. Even though I'm just talking. All right. So it makes things happen. Whenever I say, hey, you want to have another, things can happen. That's how I get my 7 days. And then I deceive it. But anyway, so it's all good. So we want to thank y'all and let's pray. Let's pray. All right. Oh, Lord God, we thank you today, Lord. We know laughter is good medicine. We just thank you, Lord, for allowing couples to be able to come together to share wisdom, Lord. We know that you're never an expert in marriage when it comes to just thinking you know everything. And that we thank you, Lord, for these couples that have imparted wisdom at different levels, 34, 24, 8, 6, 13. Lord, we just thank you, Lord, for all that you've done and know that we can learn from couples at every different age, whether it reminds us of where we were or where we need to be, and just gaining wisdom through the different seasons, Lord. So we just thank you for not only what you've done tonight with those watching live, but also those who will watch this later and be able to grow and be able to take the nuggets and the real information from couples who are standing in the gap to make it work, even above the storm, in a pandemic, out of a pandemic, empty nest, newlyweds, new kids on the way, Lord. So we just thank you, Lord, for all that you've done. And we ask and pray that you bless their families, that you bless their marriages, and that you have your way. These things we ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you
Much
all.
love.
Have a wonderful day.
Y'all be blessed.
Thanks for the
I love you
invite.
too.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right.